Rick Horrow, Facebook Live, Reuters. We've done NFL playoffs. We've done NBA Game 5. I was at the Warriors Stadium. Look how that turned out. Not very good. We've done other tennis stuff. We've done Major League Baseball All-Star Game. This may be more exciting because the bottom line of it all is that for the first time in the history of modern architecture, you've got a roof of $150 million or so of a $500 million renovation that covers a facility of 21,000 or so people and basically changes the landscape of professional tennis in New York and by inference around the world. And the guy who runs the United States, the U.S. Tennis Center, as the COO, and the Arthur Ashe Stadium, and the Billie Jean King Tennis Center. Do I have it right, Danny?
You have it right. It's a mouthful.
Danny Zausner's been a friend for a long time. Started at Ogden, worked his way up, worked his way over. First of all, Danny, thank you very much.
Welcome. Thanks for coming out.
I really appreciate that. So, you are the roof czar. You're basically the guy that did all of this, and we'll talk about it in a minute. But how important is this roof structure? And by the way, when you say that, it's a beautiful day here. It can't be any better. It's a beautiful weekend. He doesn't care. We talked off camera about, does it matter if it rains or not? Of course it matters if it rains, but stability is more important. So how important is this roof?
It's important from every angle. For the players, the certainty of knowing that there's always going to be matches, and certainly for our broadcast partners, not having to show repeats of a Connors-Crickstein match from 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And the fans. You know, Rick, we have fans that come from all over the world. 40% of our fans come from outside the tri-state area. 16% of our fans are international. They don't want to fly here from New Zealand and find out the day that they bought tickets for is a rain out. So now they got matches every single day of the 14-day tournament.
And also pretty good for television, I would assume.
It's fabulous for all of our broadcast partners. 200 countries we broadcast to, so them knowing that we'll be showing matches all day and all night long is key.
And really, really good for Aaron Crickstein.
He's ready to move on.
How many times, ladies and gentlemen, if you're an avid tennis fan, have you watched Aaron Crickstein destined for victory and Jimmy Connors basically ruins his life, right? We all know that.
So close.
It is the classic television filler for the American and worldwide tennis audience. All right, let's get into the nuts and bolts, so to speak. The roof itself, 125 feet over the sidewalk, freestanding pavilion, 8 super steel columns, 16 great angle bracelets. Oh, they're not ankle bracelets, they're angle bracelets. 80-foot high, 4.4-acre expanse of white fabric Teflon membrane. Those are all technical things, but describe what this thing is like in your words.
So here's the most important thing, is the roof opening is 250 feet by 250 feet. You could fit any other Grand Slam stadium inside just that opening alone. And that was critically important to us because we want the players to feel like we're still an outdoor tournament. And all of them have been saying that. But the interesting thing, too, is the players are telling us it feels intimate in here. So we've taken the largest tennis stadium in the world and made the players feel intimate. Couldn't ask for more. 60% of the fans are in shade all day long. It was less than half of that in the past, so that's a big benefit for them as well. But the thing here is that this stadium, Arthur Ashe Stadium, could not support any more weight, so we had to build this roof structure completely independent from the stadium itself. So that's where those 24 columns you were just talking about, that's what's holding up this roof right now. It's got nothing to do with the stadium. And the fact that we've got this Teflon coated fabric that's translucent, so we still get daylight through, but it's not, the sun's not penetrating through, and you've got tens of thousands of fans in this stadium right now who are thanking us for that shade is critical. And as you mentioned, it may not rain for 2 weeks, but the fans will still feel like they're outdoors, and that's what's the most important part.
So, first of all, before this is over, where is the magic button that opens and closes this?
So right below us, actually, one floor below us is roof control room 6307. And in that room are all the computers that controls the roof. It's 2 big panels, 125 feet by 125 feet. Each one of them weighs over 1 million pounds, and that's what's being pulled to that center part. And so in that same room, they check humidity control every second of the day to make sure that if we have bad weather, we're pumping cold air into the bowl, making sure that it never gets too slick on the courts for the players. A lot of moving pieces, but it's right below us.
So I know we've got to talk about Facebook Live and what we're going to do on the show, or we lose viewers. We're going to gain viewers. Let me tell you why. Danny's going to talk more about the roof and the economics of it and Chase and all. Chris Widmeyer, who is the poobah of communications here, is going to talk about corporate and activation and economic impact and all that. Then we're going to find a corporate activator who has a very interesting 10th anniversary, which we'll talk about a little later. But the star of the show is that Zausner personally is going to go down to control room 4038, whatever the heck he just said, and close the roof alone in violation of every rule that ever existed. And then he's going to be looking for a job. How's that?
Anything for Facebook Live.
Yeah, that's right. So give us the ground rules on opening or closing.
So it's completely controlled by a tournament director, Brian Early, tournament referee, I should say, and he'll make the final call. We're never going to close it for heat, and we're never going to close it for shade. It's just going to be about rain. So if we've got a strong forecast, and we've got meteorologists that are watching the data 24 hours a day, if we have every reason to believe that there's a really good chance of rain coming in, whether it's in an hour or 2 hours, we start the wheels in motion.
But
literally.
the meteorologists are from Mateo France Sport?
They are. They're flown in from France, and they are experts. They've been used at Wimbledon and Roland Garros, and we like the stuff that they do. So,
but the French are hardcore. Do we have any worry about them saying no? We're not closing it.
You know, we've got security guards around them 24 hours a day. They're not showing any preference to any other tournament.
Good.
They have our best interest at heart.
I hope so. So what happens with air conditioning?
So there is a ton of air conditioning that literally flows through the ball, but it's not to take a 95-degree day with the roof closed and all of a sudden make it feel like your living room.
Yeah.
What it'll do is it'll pump the cold air in, but again, it's for humidity control. It won't make it hotter in here, but you'll have constant airflow in the ball. It'll be pulling it out through our court level so that there's a constant flow of air in here, but it's not going to make it feel that much colder in here.
So it says to combat condensation when the roof is closed, the air is as cool as 55 degrees, 16 diffusers. A diffuser is a technical word for a big thing that stuff flows out of. How's that? Is that right?
In our gutter, we've got these 16 air handling units. They're 500 square feet each, and that's what's pumping all this cold air in.
7 minutes, and the shutters close in 30 seconds?
Exactly right. We thought the shutters are for the top 15 feet where the stadium ends and where the roof begins. There's a 15-foot gap right outside where you can see the city skyline.
Right.
So when we pump that air in here, we close these 54 shutters all around the ball, and that helps keep the air inside the ball.
That has got to be magnificent. What we'll end up doing is get some B-roll and put it on the Facebook Live and the Reuters site.
Absolutely.
So they can see it. Because I assume, a couple months ago or a while you had a opening and closing and opened this place?
We did. We had a press event back in the beginning of August. Everyone got to see it for the first time. And last night, even though it didn't rain as part of our opening night festivities, we opened and closed the roof, and the fans went crazy.
Oh, we should have seen that. That was the thing that we missed last night. All we were watching is some darn good tennis. I guess there's some of that around here, too. So, economics, first of all, let's talk about chase. You can't avoid chase on the roof when you're flying, when you're driving, and the metrics of that must have been like any stadium naming rights deal.
Well, and our partners are at that level of a naming rights deal in general, and the fact is it's for a 2-week event, but when you're broadcasting to 200 countries, it means a lot for all of our partners, both on-site and across the world.
What about the television? It's not called the Chase Roof, but obviously there are a lot of synergies here, and Chase has Serena Williams as a spokesperson, and they sponsor the women's finals, and there are a whole lot of synergies as well.
There's no question. You see that a lot amongst our partners.
Yeah. The roof, was there a bidding process for the naming, and was it hard initially to go out and say, this is not a traditional naming rights deal, but look, it's in New York, it's the biggest roof ever, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, the other part of it is this is Arthur Ashe Stadium, and it's going to remain Arthur Ashe Stadium. So Chase was very respectful of that process and certainly wanted the name on the roof, but totally understands that the stadium is named for Arthur Ashe. And it's just a very subtle element, which is no different than every other sponsor that we have on the site. Everything they do is subtle, but at the same time, the interaction that they have with our fans on site is unlike any other sporting event. And
by the way, there is a tennis match going on here, but we're not supposed to talk about it or mention the score, so there is no tennis match going on out here. How's that? Does that feel good?
Tennis being played somewhere.
Somewhere in the world. So, what else will this enable you to do? Is it purely just for the 2 weeks, or are you going to deal with concerts down the road, or how are you going to deal with it?
First and foremost, it's definitely about the Open, and it does open up a lot of other avenues for us that we're going to start pursuing in the future, for sure.
Well, the interesting dynamic of all of this, according to the press reports and the meteorological reports, is it really didn't rain a lot until the 08 Open, and then you had a match between Nadal and Andy Murray that everybody remembers, and then all of a sudden it's like, we've got to expedite this, we've got to figure it out. So,
you know what, when they built the stadium in the late 90s, they looked at the weather data for over 100 years, and the week before and after Labor Day, when we host the Open every year, is 2 of the traditionally driest weeks of the year. So they decided to build a 23,000 seat stadium instead of 18,000 seats without a roof because the data doesn't lie. But you're absolutely right. We didn't have the men's finals moved to a Monday for 30 years, and then it happened 5 years in a row. So you can call it global warming, you can call it freakish weather, whatever you want, but we needed to address it. There's no financial model that makes spending $150 million make sense,
right?
But it was the perfectly right thing to do for the players and for the fans.
Let's deal with that for a couple of minutes, and then we'll walk around in a minute. When you say no financial model, that's the tennis match we're not watching. There's no financial model that makes sense because you can't correspondingly increase suite rates. You can't increase ticket rates. You might do it for other reasons. But there's no revenue that pays for the 150 immediately, right?
Exactly right. And we don't start writing checks to our partners the second a match gets postponed. They're in it for the long haul. They know that the match is going to get played. But again, going back to the fact that it's just an inconvenience for everybody, it's the right thing to do.
So you made the decision on the roof in 13 and 12?
What we did is we started doing studies on how to build a roof over an existing stadium that couldn't support it.
Yeah.
And by the way, in land that used to be an ash dump, so the land around it is terribly hard to support anything.
Do we have issues? So if I come back here 5 years from now, we're going to be a few feet lower?
We built everything on piles, and those piles aren't moving.
Piles. They're not moving. Right?
Not to worry.
They're not moving.
For those of you fans that are coming out to the event, you're totally safe.
You're okay. Don't bring your swimsuit.
So we did studies in 2003 and 4 and 7 and 9, and finally 2011, the original architectural and structural engineering firm, Rossetti and WSP, they came up with a solution that was absolutely perfect. It met all of the needs of what we wanted. We didn't want this roof to feel like it wasn't attached to the stadium, that it was some albatross sitting on top of it. We had to be able to support it and afford it, and also it had to work. We looked at options there. It looked good, but the fact is it took an hour to close, and we didn't want the players going home and coming back in an hour. This thing closes in 6 minutes, and that's the beauty of it. The players can stay on the court and watch it and get right back to the match.
Do you think it gives you a template where certainly now Hard Rock Stadium, what Steve Ross has done in Miami, didn't have a roof but now does. Will there be some applicability to stadiums all over the world that are open that may want to close eventually?
Well, for us it was about lightweight, and that's why we used this fabric as opposed to the heavy metal panel. And it was also about on the outside, we had so many structures surrounding Ash that we couldn't put columns every 10 feet to support this roof. So they found an elegant way to do this with 24 columns around the 8 sides. I think every stadium's issues are unique to the marketplace that they're in. We had to deal with the city, we had to deal with the Public Design Commission, the community boards. I don't really wish that on any other community in the country.
They all have it,
so,
maybe not as much as this.
That's my blessing.
Yeah, awesome.